everyone, and welcome to another episode of the RIP Tour podcast. I am your tour guide, Ash. And guys, you've been waiting for this one for well over a year. Tim's been promising it every single week. We're finally here to record it. But there's only two of us. Only two of us tonight. If you are actually watching on YouTube, right away you'll see something a little bit funny, which we were laughing at right away when we sort of popped up to record. But Liz, how are you?
I'm doing great. And you know what? There was only one possible shirt you could wear for tonight. You know, as a fan, you had to come representing the shirt of the year, you know?
100%. So for those people who are listening to audio rather than watching on YouTube, we both have our Halloween Horror Nights 10 tee on, the 30 years of fear. So just had to be.
Yeah.
It's funny. But we just cracked up laughing when we first popped up to record. But we're here to record Halloween Horror Nights 10. Like I said, it's been a long time coming. It's just the two of us tonight. We are getting in the territory, I think, where these episodes are going to get longer, just because we have more information about the event. They're not really lost years anymore. We have a lot of first-hand sort of memories and footage, if you will. So we may start splitting these up into two parts. We'll see. But we're going to tackle it, just two of us, tonight, Liz. But I feel like, just as normal, even though he's not here tonight, we had to send him back in time to cover it. So shall we go ahead and see what Tim thought about the event?
Of course, I think that's why he's not here. I think he got maybe stuck. He got delayed a little bit in the past. So, you know, might as well go see what he's doing over there.
Yeah, we'll get some maintenance on the phone booth, I think.
Let's go check out what he's up to.
The 10th annual Halloween Horror Nights once again returned to Universal Studios Florida to mark a decade of scares. The slogan read, "Not afraid of the dark? You don't know Jack." This was in reference to Halloween Horror Nights' first ever original icon, Jack the Clown. The event featured 5 haunted houses, 4 scare zones, 2 shows, 2 haunted attractions, and a parade, and ran for 19 days in October of 2000. The event ran on October 6th and 7th, 12th to the 15th, 19th to the 31st for 19 days. Sunday through Thursday ran from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Friday and Saturday ran from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. Single admission to the event was $44 plus tax and was $38.95 for Florida residents. They also partnered with Coca-Cola and Taco Bell for discounts. The commercial for the event included the event icon, Jack the Clown, as they wanted to incorporate their new icon into all forms of marketing and advertisement. 2 teens take photos in a photo booth who are terrorized by Jack once the photos develop. The event guide or event brochure featured an artist rendition of the original icon, Jack. The slogan is on the front of the cover, with Jack looking menacing and what appears to be blood dripping from his mouth. The first house on the list is the second 3D house to feature at Halloween Horror Nights and was titled Anxiety in 3D, located in Soundstage 22. This was the icon house, and the description was, "Enter the 3D virtual reality of the house that Jack built and find yourself trapped in a malfunctioning 3D video game." Next was Total Chaos, that shared Soundstage 22. The brochure read, "Wander through a top-secret underground military base where captured aliens are on the loose and thirsting for blood." Located in Azerman's was the Fear House. The description was, "Try and make your way through a carnival where mirrored hallways, darkened corridors, and hideous creatures make your escape unlikely." The first maze in the Earthquake queue was Universal Classic Monsters Mania. The description was, "Experience real terror as classic movie monsters are transformed into hideous, gruesome, and grotesque abominations." The final maze, which was also located in the Earthquake queue, was Dark Torment, and the description read, "After riding Earthquake, you'll descend to the labyrinths of a nightmarish underworld where hordes of evil demons torment you at every turn." The first scare zone was a return of the Midway, but this time it was Midway of Dr. Moreau's, and once again was located in the Amity area. The description read, "Guests take a walk on the wicked side of an abandoned boardwalk as the Midway of Dr. Moreau's comes to life." In the Boneyard, we had The Gauntlet, where thick fog shrouds the area in a constant barrage of fear. Make your way through the assault of the strobe lights, camo netting, demented zombies, and billowing smoke. Apocalypse Island overtook Central Park, where zombies and mutants would step out of the shadows, and finally we had Clown Attack in Hollywood Boulevard, which the event guide described it as, filling the streets with demented clowns which appear ready to make your part of the circus macabre. The 2 shows featured this year were Jacked Up on the Animal Actor Stage and returning for its 9th installment, Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. The Festival of the Dead Parade also returned for this year, and Mel's Drive-In Stage also had a DJ. Under rides and attractions, we also had 2 overlays that were classed as haunted attractions. Bloody Waters was Jaws, and Nightmare Creatures 2 was located in Confrontation. The rest of the rides and attractions that were open were Terminator 2 3D, Battle Across Time, Twister, Ride It Out, Back to the Future the Ride, The Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera, Men in Black Alien Attack, Beetlejuice's Graveyard Review, E.T. Adventure, and Earthquake, the big one.
All right, so thank you again, Tim, for doing the heavy lifting, going back in time, getting our first-hand reports. But even though we'll probably still send Tim back in time, but Liz, one more year until you can give actual first-hand accounts.
I know, isn't that crazy? This is the last one before I can actually share some memories.
Yeah, well, memories that you can remember. I mean, you've slept a little bit since then.
It's been a while.
It has. All right, cool. So let's get into the event. Okay, we'll deep dive as we normally do into the houses, the zones, the shows, but we need to talk about the icon. This is such a monumental occasion in Halloween Horror Nights history. We have we have hindsight now, right? But what a play this was. Jack the Clown becoming the first original icon of Halloween Horror Nights, right?
Oh yeah.
Such a good play because, like I said, we have the convenience of hindsight just to see how everything played out with the icon era, and this is the start of it. So, born Jack Schmidt, Jack was a performer in Dr. Oddfellow's Carnival of Thrills. His role in Oddfellow's traveling carnival was to entertain people, and in particular children. So, unbeknownst to his employer and guests, he was also a twisted and maniacal murderer. In the 1920s, many children were going missing in the South. When the police came to investigate this, they linked the disappearances to the route that the carnival took. Now, on Halloween night in 1920, the police decided to investigate the carnival, and their prime suspect was none other than Jack Schmidt. So Jack heard about the suspicion from the police, and he confessed everything to Dr. Oddfellow. Jack's initial plan was for Oddfellow to protect him, because they'd been working closely together, but instead of him being sympathetic and understanding, Jack was met with fury from Oddfellow, not for the fact that he murdered innocent children, but for the fact that Oddfellow once had a circus where several customers were killed, but he had to keep that a secret. Oddfellow did not want the police sniffing and lurking around to uncover his own shady past, had he been under the alias of Oddfellow and on the run since that happened. So, Liz, the stage is set for Jack's sort of backstory. Do you like the backstory and how it played out to start with?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they did such an elaborate backstory for their first real original icon. Like they were really diving in deep right off the bat. And it's kind of a gamble.
100%. Yeah, 100%. They're going with their own original icon for the very first time. It's tough to talk about this because we know obviously what's come since. But yeah, such a gamble, I agree. But let's continue. So Oddfellow pretended to listen to Jack's story and managed to convince Jack to show where the bodies were, and it helped him hide the evidence. Jack led Oddfellow into his coach in the direction of the 3 trunks living in his quarters. Inside the trunks were the missing bodies of 13 children that he had murdered, and in retaliation, instead of helping Jack, Oddfellow had him murdered in his corpse and the children's bodies in plain sight in his House of Horrors attraction. So after several years of evading police capture, Oddfellow sold off the carnival, the House of Horrors attraction, and was sold off and sat for 60 years untouched and scrapped for metal. Now we probably know what's coming. So 60 years later on Halloween, a BBC TV crew who were filming the Great Dark Rides of America came across this House of Horrors in a junkyard in Louisiana. They entered the junkyard and the carnival and managed to get inside the attraction while they were filming footage for their show. The smell inside was overwhelming as this 60-year-old attraction was untouched. They then found a series of trunks that blocked a huge wooden box which had the letter stenciled around it that spelled out Jack. So as the crew moved closer with their flashlights, they found a large crank on the outside akin to a jack in a box. They turned the crank and inside the box noises can be heard. Other crew members found a flashlight until it finally burst open. It showed the decomposed body of Jack tangled in strings. The police were then called to investigate the old attraction. They managed to trace the carnival back to Oddfellow and deduced that it was Jack Schmidt and the 13 missing children. Detectives sent out the bodies of the 13 children in 2 vans to the coroner's office, and they had a 3rd van for Jack, as they would not remove him from the springs. However, the first 2 vans made it, but the 3rd one did not. Which van do you think didn't make it, Liz?
I can't imagine which one.
Yeah. So as they were driving through, the driver reported some trouble around midnight, and they were missing in the good old Louisiana bayou down in the swamp. A week passed, and the crew from the BBC TV series were found dead. This created an urban legend around Jack, where he was searching for Oddfellow to get revenge and rewarded any person who released him from a Jack-in-a-Box tomb with death. Now let's cut to October 2000, which was the site of Halloween Horror Nights. October of 2000. Universal Studios managed to get their hands on some of Dr. Oddfellow's original Carnival of Thrill pieces and incorporated it into their 2000 event. Marketing used this urban legend of Jack and used it as part of the event. Art and design also managed to acquire the original box that Jack was trapped in. As the art and design department checked the item and turned the crank, they unleashed Jack into Halloween Horror Nights 10, and this was ultimately his first appearance in Halloween Horror Nights history. So Liz, obviously we like the story, we love the sort of lore and background, but do you like how it ties in to the event?
Yeah, what a saga, and
right?
What a cool feature that they not only created the backstory of the icon, but also explained how he got to Halloween Horror Nights. Because sometimes, especially the modern icons, we don't really know why they're at Horror Nights. They're just, we know their story. So this is a cool way of tying in of like, this is why he is here.
Yeah, and I think they do a really, really good job at that, like you just said, because we're not gonna get ahead of ourselves, but this is the start of what we call the icon era. And these early icons all sort of have a tie-in with Horror Nights and how they sort of got to the event. But like you just said, we're kind of in, a phase where their icons just pop up, but we don't know why they're there. There's not really an elaborate backstory like this, but yeah, just a really cool backstory that incorporate everything.
Yeah, absolutely. What a start to the icon era.
100%.
So this year's event, this Halloween Horror Nights 2000, was known as Halloween Horror Nights 10. And the tagline was, "Not afraid of the dark? You don't know Jack," which is just such a great, iconic
Chef's
first line.
kiss.
Just perfect. Yep. So we can't go any further before we talk about those ticket prices that Tim mentioned. So single admission to the event was only $44. Which is the same as the prior year. So no price increase. What a concept.
Amazing. Imagine that.
I know. And there were still discounts available for Florida residents, as well as additional discounts with Taco Bell or Coca-Cola labels. They used to always do that back in the day, with the lowest price for gate admission being $28.95. That is a steal. You can't even scream early for that price.
That is so true. Can you imagine going to Halloween Horror Nights event now for $29?
I can't.
The cheapest you can get it for, which is crazy.
I spend more on food in one night.
Yeah, get a few beers with a tip. You're done.
Done.
Yeah.
Okay, so then this is our event guide for Halloween Horror Nights 2000. Look at Jack. Look at that first impression of Jack on that map. Do you have one of these, Ash? I
don't know. So my event guide started at 13 for my first year. I did have a 12 and I had a 9, but I gave them away. I'm a big fan. No, that's the wrong word. I don't like having merchandise for events I've not been to.
Yeah.
So if I had one of these, do you know what I love about this? It's a cartoon rendition of it as opposed to like an
actual picture.
I really, really love this.
I love that you said that as we're both wearing the shirt from the event we definitely did not attend.
Yeah, that's so here's why I can get away with it, because it does say 30 years, 30 fears on the side.
Oh, it's the other side, yeah. Yeah. I know. It's the anniversary, but I justified it to myself as the following year was my first year and Jack was the icon then too, spoiler alert. So I justified it to myself that way.
That's fair.
Because they didn't sell my shirt, so So anyway, we have the slogan there at the bottom of the map, and we have what was our opening date? I forget what our opening date was, but we've got this particular map is from October 14th and 20th, or they were open from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m., which is actually one of the busiest nights then if they were open till 2 a.m.
Yeah, and I wish they'd bring the taglines back because that just looks good down there. The font looks good. The Jack looks good at the end of it.
Yeah.
The Halloween Horror Nights 10, the way it reads, they've sort of had that font for a while too, but I just love everything about this, and Jack just looks menacing. I love it.
Just imagine walking into the park and picking this up
right
as your first impression of the event.
Yeah, if you don't know anything about the event, and then you don't know anything really about the icon at this time as well, just because social media is not a massive thing there, you sort of have to piece it together yourself, but yeah, amazing.
Great first impression. So now I think we should watch the commercial.
Not afraid of the dark? You don't know Jack. Look out for the new Halloween Horror Nights 10, only at Universal Studios. Florida residents save $10 with a specially marked 2-liter Coca-Cola Classic label or coupon from a participating Taco Bell.
See, we're both just smiling here.
I know. It's so good.
Yeah, here's the thing about this commercial, right? It is absolute perfection, right? And let me tell you why. So the backstory is it's a regular Halloween Horror Nights event, and they brought this box in to use as part of it because it's an urban legend, and Jack kind of springs out and sort of takes over the event. And that's what's happening. The carnival theme's going on. There's people being scared by the Chainsaw Drill team. It's like a Halloween Horror Nights event. They go into that booth. I love the sort of pictures, how they get progressively worse.
Yes.
And then Jack popping up again at the end, and the Halloween Horror Nights, like dripping red blood, just perfection. I may have stole your thunder, Liz. I'm sorry, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's absolutely fine. I love the enthusiasm. I completely agree. I just think that is the quintessential Halloween Horror Nights commercial, the icon commercial to just, set the entire icon era from that moment. It set the mood for the event. If you were watching that at home, I feel like I would have been so scared. I was a teen at this point, an early teen, and I feel like I would have been like, nope, not going to that. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I feel like the icon, they sort of get a little darker. Like we said, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves, but they kind of get a little darker too. And yeah, this is just perfection. I absolutely love. I love that commercial so much. All right, let's keep moving. So we'll go over the scare zones. Okay, so Amity area played host to the midway of Dr. Moreau's, and this was all about a crazy doctor who had conducted genetic experiments, and those experimental monsters hunted guests and lurked on every corner in an abandoned boardwalk. So we've used the midway a lot in Amity, and the midway of the bazaar that's been there for so many years has a little twisty take on it, shall we say.
Yeah, I think it lends itself in that area to kind of just stick with the midway theme. And so it was nice to have a little bit of an update to it than just the same old.
Yeah.
Then moving on, we had the Gauntlet, which was located in the Boneyard. So guests had to walk through this zone to get to the houses that were held in Soundstage 22. And the facade had a cutout of Jack the Clown holding a real net, which guests could take photos by. Jack himself would appear near this area for a photo op, which is awesome. And the scare zone had many obstacles guests had to walk through, with many scare actors hiding behind them, including a group of chainsaw-wielding maniacs wearing Kiss makeup.
Okay, so this is where the Chainsaw Drill team must have been.
Yeah.
Must have been hiding
what
out.
a random inclusion that they're wearing Kiss makeup, but...
Yeah, and I love the fact to actually get to the houses back there in Soundstage 22. You have no choice. You're going through the gauntlet.
Yep, I love that. And just the fact that you can meet Jack out there too. What a cool feature.
Yeah. Yeah, and then even if Jack's not around, you have the little photo op too with the net. So, yeah, really, really like that. And then we do have Apocalypse Island. Now, this is one of my favourite scare zones. So this was Central Park being utilised for the very first time, which has now become a fan favourite zone. So police barricades and scaffold towers blocked the way as zombies and mutants jumped out with the infamous can shakers. And the biggest advice for this zone from art and design was stick to the path. So it seems like almost like a maze within a scare zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Central Park, I'm surprised they've not used this until now.
Yeah, I don't really understand why. Just maybe because there weren't enough houses to have you go back through that area. That's the only thing I can think of is they just kept you at the front of the park before. I don't know.
Yeah, not really use that section of the park. Mm-hmm. Makes sense, yeah. And then finally we had Clown Attack, which was in Hollywood Boulevard. So this is your icon zone. So Jack filled the streets with maniacal maniacs and dementor clowns, and he was also present in this zone as it's the icon zone. So always nice to have the icon represented in a zone, Liz.
Yeah, and we're going to see more of this as we go through the event, but I love how Jack was just all over the place. There was no doubt that Jack was controlling this event, that he was the icon because he's in everything.
Bingo. I'm glad you touched on that, actually, because we always talk about, are they an icon? Are they not an icon? There's no doubt here, right? There's no grey area. Zero debate. He's on literally everything. Event guide, commercial, zone. You know, he's on everything. So, yeah. And I like when they do this. You know, if they're going to go for a theme or a concept, just throw it in my face. I love it.
Yeah. And that kind of brings us to the next area because Jack was even on some of the haunted attractions they had that year. So on the list of haunted rides and attractions, they had two. They had Bloody Waters, which was the standard Jaws ride, but Jack was in the boathouse scene, which is crazy. I think we even have a video of it that we're going to watch here in a second. And then there was also Nightmare Creatures 2, which was in Confrontation, which had scare actors inside of it. And some of those had stilts, apparently. And this is more like an indoor scare zone than a traditional haunted attraction, as it had water effects, chain-linked fences, fog, and obstacles. And you entered the attraction below the regular cable car attraction. So just imagine you're on Jaws and Jack pops up.
Amazing. Do you know the infamous sort of, there was one actor who fell in?
No, I haven't heard this story.
Yes, that is in, I have a Tales from Amity, which is all the skippers kind of piling together to make this book. I'll have to lend it. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was one time a Jack scare actor fell in into the water. Yep.
And that's why we never saw Jack on the Jaws ride again.
Right.
We're getting out of this 76. Don't you, Brody? We're in the boathouse till we get to you, okay? See you little time. You there? Wait a second. Oh, man, Jack's back. That's not cool. Did you guys hear anything? Oh, no, he's got gasoline. Forget this. Forget this, man. We're getting out of here. Let's drop it in the queue. Come on, this isn't funny. Come on. Hey, guys, I got it. We're getting out of here. Oh, yeah.
Jack did some acrobatics. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, the acrobatics and the gasoline. I think so. Riding Jaws at night, I think's not terrifying, but it's pretty scary riding it at night. But can you imagine Jack like coming out in the boathouse? No thanks.
That was riding Jaws during Halloween Horror Nights was a highlight of the olden days. Yep. So I can only imagine just riding at night, the fun aspect of that, and then Jack appearing in the boathouse doing some acrobatics. Wow. Yeah, I'm sad I missed that. Incredible. Yeah, really, really cool. All right, so let's get on to shows. We'll save the mazes until last. We'll go on to the shows. So in the Animal Actors stage, we had Jacked Up, which was the Icon show. So the first ever Icon show, which would become a common theme during the Icon era. Now, the manuscript labeled it as, think of your worst fear, think of your childhood, the thing under the bed, the monster in the closet, think of the things you thought you knew. Well, you've hit the jackpot. Welcome to your worst nightmare. It's all jacked up. Join your host Jack as he takes you on a surreal journey through the madness known as his twisted imagination, combining dazzling acrobatic performance with the cutting-edge music of today's youth. This show is sure to be a real crowd pleaser for our Halloween guests. So they said Jack in different puns like 4 or 5 times there. So again, no denying who your icon is this year. So think of this more of a haunted
Cirque du Soleil show where Jack is your MC and a lot of sort of twisted sort of acrobatics going on and tricks and magic going on around it. So I'd have loved to have seen this. What about you?
Me too. I miss the days of this, like just icon shows in general, but this one I think would have been a highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also had the Festival of the Dead Parade returning again in 2000. And this had a sort of tagline this year. It was called Deadly Playthings. A lot of the floats were reused, but a Jack float was added. And this was really, really cool. It was a big, big Jack float. Basically his head on the front of a float. Really, really cool. And because it was called Deadly Playthings, and Jack was obviously out of a Jack-in-a-Box, we also had demonic and possessed toys. That were the theme, from wooden soldiers to even like Raggedy Ann dolls. But yeah, really, really cool how they themed it to the icon as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, Jack is everywhere. There is no mistaking who is in charge of this event. And I'm kind of sad I didn't get to see that because that float looks terrifying.
It looks awesome, yeah.
So cool. But of course, Halloween Horror Nights wouldn't be Halloween Horror Nights during this era without the Bill and Ted show. So everyone get comfy. It's time for maybe your favorite segment. Liz goes through Bill and Ted's 2000. So this is once again located in the Wild West stage, and it still had the Wild West backdrops and all the nice little features that stage provided them. The show began with the crocodile hunter, Steve Irwin, who comes out on stage letting the audience know that he was on the hunt for the mutant. After his bit, the time-traveling phone booth appeared to the song of The Simpsons, the theme song, and Mr. Burns and Smithers emerge from the phone booth as this year's villains. Mr. Burns gets to the point quickly and tells the audience he plans to kidnap all the world's biggest pop stars in order to take over the world. He plans to sell these pop stars on his new website, kidnapster.com. We have to pause for a moment there because I laughed so hard.
So good. So
good.
Yeah.
Whoever made that joke, A+ to you. Whoever out there wrote this show, I don't know back then who was writing this show, but that is an A+ 2000 joke.
Genius. Yes.
After revealing his plan, the first pop culture stars appear, Jack and Karen from the TV show Will and Grace. When Jack tells Mr. Burns his plan will never work, Mr. Burns asks, "And who is going to stop me?" Well, the Mission Impossible theme song answers that question as Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible drops in from the ceiling, forcing Mr. Burns to reveal the final part of his plan. By kidnapping the pop stars, the world would be forced to return to real music, aka easy listening from the 70s and 80s, including Neil Diamond, Lionel Richie, and Styx. And I have a feeling that those artists probably switched depending on the night, because I feel like that's an ad-lib line, don't you think?
Yeah, possibly. I love it. It's such a random assortment of artists, but a couple of things here. Smithers and Mr. Burns look amazing and sound great.
They're honestly, really good.
Really, really good. I love the Steve Irwin start of it. This must be like the Crocodile Hunter start of that popularity. And
oh yeah, the peak.
I love it. Yeah, the peak of Crocodile Hunter, and they're on the hunt for the mutant, or down under they call it the mutie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this start. Really set up nicely.
Very good. So after a loud commotion and some explosions, the mystery machine from Scooby-Doo comes bursting through the barn doors, gloriously introducing our heroes, Bill and Ted, because, of course, Mr. Burns has the phone booth, so they have to enter with the mystery machine. They have a whole joke bit with Scooby about having the munchies from hanging out in the mystery machine and laugh that Shaggy is still passed out in the back of the van. And at that point, with the introduction of our heroes, it's time to meet their allies for this year, including Shaft, Charlie's Angels, and Wolverine, along with some other X-Men. So what do you think of the heroes for this year?
Yeah, I don't think it's the strongest year for heroes. I loved how camp that Wolverine was too.
Oh, yes. Very, very funny.
Yeah.
It gets revealed here in a second, but yeah. Mr. Burns and Smithers escape through the phone booth, taking the superpowers from all of the heroes. So that's kind of when Wolverine goes left field here.
So funny.
And that includes taking Bill and Ted's ability to rock. So they go to do their normal bit and rock music does not play. So Bill calls the phone booth back, but this time Mr. Burns and Smithers emerge with Janet Reno, who chases Elian Gonzalez off stage with a net. Now, talk about a topical moment. Like,
totally topical. Yeah.
I wonder how many people listening to this will even remember that happening, because I mean, were you aware of who that was?
Yeah, so I mean, I've obviously seen this a long time ago too, so I know what it's referring to, but there's no way like the majority of listeners will know. And I guarantee a lot of British people listening will not know.
Right. So this was a very specific event that happened in Florida. You'll have to Google it. We're not going to go into it on here,
Nope.
But it was a huge thing in the news, especially in Florida at this time. So it doesn't surprise me that they included it, but 25 years later, I feel like a lot of people are going to have no clue what we're talking about. So you'll have to look that one up. But at that point, the scary movie version of Ghostface appears and a dance break fight scene erupts as always. Mama Clump attempts to seduce Shaft. Smithers releases Britney Spears and Lil' Kim, who of course start a dance off, ending with Britney Spears tearing Lil' Kim's wig off. Lil' Kim runs off stage and Britney is then attacked by Sabretooth. One of the X-Men, right? I'm not that much of an X-Men fan, but I'm pretty sure that was an X-Men.
Yeah, like an adversary of the...
Right, the bad... Right, yeah. From the X-Men, yeah. The Crocodile Hunter at this point reappears to hunt Sabretooth, revealing that this is the mutie he was looking for. The Rock appears in the audience to battle Sabretooth, so he comes to save the day, save Steve Irwin, and of course gives his famous line, Ash, this is your moment. Do you not know The Rock's line?
Oh, I do, yeah.
He left me hanging.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Yeah. You're a wrestling guy.
I'm a wrestling guy. Yeah. And
Put him on the spot.
This was when I was really into wrestling too.
Yeah, he's wearing like his 90s like black sweater that picture that always circulates. So at this point, Elian Gonzalez reappears and manages to evade Janet Reno again, this time by stealing the phone booth. So once again, phone booth is gone.
Yeah, a lot to unpack here.
Oh yeah. I mean, as these shows go, it's a lot of nonsense all strung together.
It is. There's a lot of left field stuff. There's a lot going on. You think, hang on a minute, we're on this part now. What just happened? The last, but yeah, Britney was cool. I like how she came in like the schoolgirl outfit doing. The Rock got the one that I watched, or the one that we both watched. The Rock got such a pop.
Yes.
From the audience. Just think the year 2000. It's when wrestling was pretty big, and The Rock in particular. Was pretty big, and I liked it how the Crocodile Hunter was hunting like a saber-tooth, but it was the saber-tooth.
He basically jumps on him, is like opening his mouth, like, look at these. Yeah, the Rock, it was such at the height of popularity that the audience literally, he paused so that the audience could do the line with him, and the entire audience did the line. So.
And they didn't leave him hanging like I left you hanging. So
no, not at all. I was like, he's got this. He's got this. But while the phone booth is gone, our full cast of heroes and villains form an alliance to vote Mystique out of the show, Survivor style, because 2000 was the first year of Survivor. It was massive, huge. So at that point, Bill and Ted threaten to vote Mr. Burns out the following week, and he bargains with them to turn over his Kidnapster technology in exchange for immunity. They enter the secret code, which is, of course, 69, and present to the audience their report on popular music, thus triggering the grand dance finale. Now, are you ready for this finale?
I'm ready for it.
The finale songs include Enrique Iglesias's Balamos, Bloodhound Gang's Bad Touch, Eminem's Real Slim Shady, and the grand finale. Let me tell you, when I saw this, I was so sad. This was not my first year of Halloween Horror Nights. The grand finale was a medley of NSYNC songs performed by quote-unquote NSYNC, including It's Gonna Be Me, Space Cowboy, Tearing Up My Heart, and of course, Bye Bye Bye, with the entire cast doing the Bye 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 choreography. My heart. I would have been screaming my head off.
Yeah, this was so good. Like the songs before NSYNC or NSYNC, as it was
yes.
earlier. It was good. The songs before it were like pieced together nice, and then just ending with this, and obviously Bye 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 was their
man.
biggest track. So yeah, everybody getting in on that at the end.
And fake JC, like the actor playing JC, got like a long moment. If I had been there as a teenager, I probably would have been in love with that actor.
Yeah, this was so good.
So good.
So, shame I didn't get to see. Are you they didn't really put the icons in Bill and Ted. I was going to say you're surprised Jack wasn't in it, but the icons were never in it anyway.
No, but I think it would have been funny if they did some sort of like little nod to James.
Yeah, right.
As he did both, you know? It would have been
because it was in there so much.
Little tongue-in-cheek moment. It would have been cute there.
Yeah, I think this year would have worked for that, but I thought they never used the icons in the following years anyway.
Yeah. Little did they know. Little did they know. The legacy.
Yeah. This one's for you. It had Survivor in there. It had NSYNC in there.
This is the first one of the ones we've done so far where I was like, okay, now I'm getting to the age where all the pop culture references are hitting for the age that I was. Like there were still a couple in here that I wasn't really into, but the majority I was like, okay, I understand all of these jokes. This would have been a hit for me.
All right, Bill and Ted. It's always a favorite when we go over that. But let's get into the main event. Why we're here, the mazes. So let's start with the first one. So Dark Torment. Now this was housed in the Earthquake queue, and the house description said, after riding Earthquake, you'll descend into the labyrinth of the nightmarish underworld, where hordes of evil demons torment you at every turn. So this one was super unique. You know, because obviously guests had to ride Earthquake itself before they could do this maze. So after the riding, crazy, right? Because what my first thought is, what are the lines going to be like here? Because it's not a people eater, clearly, because you have to ride the attraction first. Yeah. Right?
I mean, it's kind of smart because you can just use the Earthquake queue as it is normally set up in a way to like get people onto the ride and through. But yeah, that definitely added some wait time.
What you had to. Surely. So after the ride and an introductory video from Jack, love this. What was the original? It was Charlton Heston, wasn't it? Like the Earthquake video. So maybe having Jack on there, what a cool touch that was. And then the guests would enter the house through a backstage door. And during the video, Jack informed guests that they died in the earthquake and were now in hell. The house was themed to hell itself, with guests entering next to a large skull and moving into a graveyard. Robed actors representing the 7 deadly sins were featured in 7 different scenes, with a different torture room to match each sin. Tortured Souls scare actors were featured in one room, mixed dummies and strobe lights to hide the scares. So I love the sound of this. You know, each sort of room representing a sin. Yeah,
and I had not realized that they had done a house based on that, because obviously 7 is one of my favorite scare zones of all time. So to hear that they've put that in a house before, and just somehow in all of my years of horror nights, I had never heard of the fact that they had to ride Earthquake yet until we were doing the prep for this. And I was like, what? Like, that is so cool. What a concept.
Yeah. And I love the fact that I love the idea of Jack being in the sort of pre-maze video anyway. That's just really, really cool. But the fact that they've tied it together, that actually you died in the earthquake and now you're in hell. What a touch that is.
I love it. What a creative idea. Like, really, really cool.
Amazing.
So then our next house was the Universal Classic Monster Mania house, which was also in the earthquake queue. The house description said, experience real terror as classic movie monsters are transformed into hideously gruesome and grotesque abominations. The facade for this house was a movie soundstage with gargoyles, and inside the house, the classic monsters were featured. So a tradition at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Guests saw different versions of Dracula within his castle, including his bat form. Frankenstein's laboratory and the monster were also featured. A graveyard and crypt were included in the house as well, with hands reaching out to scare guests. Creature, good old Creature from the Black Lagoon, was also featured in a swampy wooden area, and a super buff wolfman apparently could be found near the end of the maze. The idea for this house was to make the classic monsters even scarier than usual, and some fan accounts suggest that portions of this house were possibly presented in black and white. So that's why you have the super buff wolfman and these different forms, because they're trying to make them even scarier than they had in the past.
Yeah, I'm surprised the buff wolfman wasn't up front like a bouncer, you know, to get into the maze rather than near the end.
Right.
But yeah, I love, because obviously with this property, they sort of have creative freedom, I guess, to do whatever they want with it, because it's their own property. So I love when they do a little twisted take on it, and this just sounds no different to that. You know, they're taking the classic monsters, they're sort of plussing them a little bit, making them obviously abominations, which I really, really like, and Creature in there, Liz.
Yeah, good old Creature. Getting some love back there in 2000.
Yeah, but yeah, Universal Classic Monsters always work. So yeah, it sounds like the Earthquake had a nice little one-two punch there with those
Sure
two
did.
lasers. Yeah. All right, moving on into the Nazemans area. We had the Fear House. So guests were challenged to try and make their way through a carnival where mirrored hallways, darkened corridors, and hideous creatures made their escape unlikely. So guests would enter by the face and mouth of a clown that appears to be Jack with the words, "Thrills the Fear House." This house was based on Dr. Oddfellow's Carnival of Oddities and was described as very disorienting, with strobes, mirrors, and many different types of clowns. Dr. Oddfellow's clown minions and torture devices were featured throughout, with one room focusing on Jack in the Boxes, like the one that released Jack. The whispers of children could be heard playing through the speakers.
Dr. Oddfellow.
Yeah, Dr. Oddfellow's first sort of iteration into Halloween Horror Nights, but this sounds very very carnival-esque, very, like it says, disorienting, mirrors, strobe lights, and almost like playing on the senses almost. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the trend of the early Jack houses, was to focus on more of a fun house feel with like the mirrors and just pulling in those tricks that always work on a haunted house, especially like when you don't have a crazy budget, because this is still early days where they don't have as much as they do now. Those tricks just, they work. So why not use them?
Yeah, and this is a weird one to me, Brett, because there was an icon house, which we're going to get to in a couple of houses down the line. So there was an icon house that we will get to. This was almost a nod to the theme of the event as well. Jack wasn't in there, but there was tons of nods to him. But it's almost like there's two icon houses almost.
Yeah, because this is still telling his story. It's still got Dr. Oddfellow. It's still got the Jack in the Box thing. So it's still tied in.
Yeah, I like it. I like how they have two separate mazes sort of for the same theme. It's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. For our next house, I had to give this one to myself because it's the alien house. So this is called Total Chaos, and it was located in Soundstage 22. In this house, guests were challenged to wander through a top secret underground military base where captured aliens on the loose, and they're thirsting for blood. Like, oh, give me an alien house. I want it. Yep. Guests would head under the iconic neon Halloween Horror Nights sign that we know and love, where they would find the option to enter two houses, Total Chaos or Anxiety, which is our next house. Those choosing Total Chaos would enter a military base that may have included an abandoned spaceship. Sign me up. This house had a very unique feature, which this sounds absolutely bonkers. Guests would enter an elevator to move up to an upper level and then slide into a ball pit by way of a slide. After reaching the ball pit, guests were blasted with air, strobes, and decapitated heads as alien scare actors chased them out of the house. Excuse me?
This is just sensory overload. Honestly.
Did I just read there's an elevator?
Yeah, and I mean, we're gonna get to mazes that had stairs that you had to go up to. You know, it's
and a slide.
A slide, ball pit. We're getting heads thrown at us.
This era, I don't know that I mean, I went the next year, and spoiler alert, I did not go through houses because I was a chicken. And this is why. Like, look, that sounds absolutely terrifying. Like, what? I mean, I love it. Now I would do it in a heartbeat. But back then, having not ever done a house, if I was taken into that house first and I was required to slide down a ball pit and then get chased out by actors, never again.
Yeah, and I think this is funny because it's like now we could never do something like this now, right?
No, never.
But even back then, I feel like this was almost towing the line with what they could do, like an elevator down into a ball pit. It's just kind of towing the line on like operation wise, if that makes sense.
That seems a little bit like a nightmare, but cool for them to be so creative with it.
Yeah, and I think we're due a really good sci-fi house. We haven't had one in a long time, so a really good sci-fi house. I think we're due one. And what I do like about this as well is a lot of this in the early days where like SS Titanic, for example, you kind of go in the line, you can go left to one side, right to the other. We've had a Universal Monsters one where it's sort of two paths. And this one, it's two separate mazes, but it's almost like you go through to Soundstage 22 and you can pick left or right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I love, you know, that sort of touch on it too. Finally, we do have our Icon House, Anxiety in 3D, same soundstage. So the description read, enter the 3D virtual reality of the house that Jack built and find yourself trapped in a malfunctioning 3D video game. Like I mentioned, this was the second house in Soundstage 22. The house setting was a malfunctioning video game created by Jack to prey on primal fears. The scenes featured popular fears such as spiders, rats, heights, and confined spaces. There was rotating floors, mirrors, and the dreaded revolving tunnel.
Oh, if only Tim were here.
Yeah, right. He's here in spirit with that, yeah. And then what was also used was an eyeball room with ping-pong-sized eyeballs all over the room. This helped scare actors in black suits camouflage well and scare. And then in the finale room, we had a giant Jack in a Jack in the Box to greet guests as they exit.
Yeah. And for me, reading this brought so much memories back because my first ever house that I actually went into was in 2006, and it was the Psycho house. And they did that same scene with the ping pong eyeballs and that scare actors all in black with the eyeballs like velcroed to them, and you're walking through and you can't tell where an actor is versus the curtains, and it's such an effective scene. So to read it here was just fun. I was like, memories of my first house.
That's so funny. And I mean, they use things that work, you know, so things that work well, they'll always bring back. But 3D house, I mean, you know, say what you want about 3D, but it was good too. And a lot of these houses seemed like they did play in a lot of your fears and senses. Yeah.
And I think that finale sounds so cool. The giant Jack with the Jack in the Box. I think that would have been a really great way to end the house, especially if imagine this is your first house going into the event and that's how you start.
Yeah. I mean, because if you're going in and you're sort of acquainted with the icon now, you may want to go to that maze first, you know, and then to have that sort of finale room with him in front of your face. And then
he's basically on our shirts. The exact scene that's on our shirt. Yeah, exactly.
And then it kind of sets you up for the rest of the event. The shows, the haunted attractions. He's in another parade. He's in another house, sort of. So really, really cool. Really, really cool. So Liz, the event as a whole, definitely a hit.
Oh, yeah. I so wish I had gone 1 year earlier and seen this for myself. I feel like this had to have been one of the most stellar years of this era.
Yeah, for sure. And what a good way to kick off the Icon era. Amazing. So that's it for anything you want to go over in terms of shows, zones, houses, before we kind of wrap up the things that didn't really fit anywhere else?
No, I think I just, one more time want to touch on the fact that look at all we've covered and the fact that Jack was in every piece of it.
Yeah, it's a little crazy when you think about the amount that it was in there, but everybody was on the same page this year because we're going to get to an Icon year where it was that creative and marketing were on two separate meetings. So we'll get to that one, but everybody was on the same page, whether it was the lead up to the event, whether it was creative, marketing, visuals, everybody was on. Everybody knew the assignment here, that's for sure.
100%. They were working together on this one.
Absolutely.
So I think that kind of brings us to our next topic that we want to talk about, which is the marketing and how Halloween Horror Nights 2000 really changed the way this event was marketed, with the focus on Jack and just how much kind of early viral marketing they tried to make happen using Jack. So they had him everywhere. He was on local TV stations, radio shows. He was doing newspaper interviews. And they were really just trying to get him out there everywhere so that people knew this event was happening. And one of my favorite things that's ever come out of this event are the pictures of Jack from this marketing campaign. And that includes that picture of Jack on the Swan pedal boat, eating popcorn out on Lake Eola. Like, what an iconic image. And that's just all from the marketing team, just plopping him out there and letting him do his thing. and just interact with people who are, can you imagine? You're just like strolling down Lake Eola on a random, sometime in summer, probably when they're doing this, and having a lovely day. And all of a sudden you just see Jack the Clown out in the middle and you don't know who he is because he's not an icon yet. I could just imagine like, who's that guy in the middle of the lake? What is that clown doing out there?
And you tell your friend, you tell your family, you know, then they tell somebody. So it's sort of the viral marketing before we had the opportunity to sort of viral market aside from radio and TV. So the fact that he didn't have a script and he just went down there and did his thing is just genius.
You pick the right actor and just let him go wild. 100%. And I can just imagine the phone calls that night of like, you will not believe what I saw in Lake Eola.
Yeah, it's a crazy clown on a peddling a swan in the middle of the lake.
Exactly.
No, and then it was in the paper the next day, I assume. So.
Yeah, for sure. And then and that's the start of all of it. This getting that campaign going from word of mouth. Yep. So creating Jack and running with such an overall storyline with an original icon, it was a pretty big gamble for them. But now looking back, we can tell just how much that gamble paid off because it changed the event for the rest of its history. And here we are years later debating if someone's an icon or not an icon, hoping every year we're going to see an icon. And a lot of us still hoping, you know, will Jack be back that particular year? Like already next year, we're like, will Jack be back? It's 35th year. Will Jack be there? So here we are 25 years later, still always talking about Jack.
Yeah, and he's been back so many times. It never gets old, and they pulled this off so well. It helps by the fact that they had somebody amazing playing Jack as well, but it's just stood the test of time. I think you put it perfectly. It definitely was a gamble, just because they've used their own original properties up until then, but I think they had People Under the Stairs, they had Crypt Keeper, so they're Tales from the Crypt, and they've used the Mummy as well up until then. But to go with their original concept as an overall theme and an icon really took some guts, and it's paid off, as we all know now, you know.
And I do think you kind of touched on that. They got lightning in a bottle with James Keaton, and I think, you know, I want to give him some credit where it's due. They created the character, but he really is the one that personified it. And I don't think that character would have been as popular as it's been if they hadn't picked the right actor for the role. And they nailed it.
100%. Yeah, casting needs a bit of credit there as well, because he is just amazing. He's so versatile. He's very, very quick-witted. So he's absolutely perfect for the sort of that spieling, satirical role as well. But yeah, amazing. And honestly, if Jack was at the event, and people would get tired of it, I'm sure, but if Jack was at the event in some capacity every year, I wouldn't mind it at all. And I say the same thing about Universal Monsters too. Doesn't need to be a zone, doesn't need to be a maze. If they had some sort of presence, I feel like it's their sort of catalogue of horror. So Jack and Universal Monsters should always be there in some form, in my opinion.
It's kind of interesting how they've latched on to Lil Boo being the thing that's there every year. And I feel like they could sell Jack merch every single year. Even if it wasn't an event, I think they could do Jack merch every year and people would buy it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So that is it. That is Halloween Horror Nights 10. You Don't Know Jack. Really good event. Really, really good event. And like I said, it kicks off the Icon era. And I touched on it at the start. We may get into the territory when it comes to big backstories and lore where we may have to split these up. Maybe not.
Yeah. I could imagine. You know what I mean? We start getting these icons, some of these, like, you know, we might be 55 by the time we get to the Bloody Mary here, but
yeah, just even introducing the icon themselves, their backstory, Bloody Mary will be at 2 hours.
Exactly.
So yeah, we might get into splitting them up. Where we may do like the zones and shows and the introduction, mazes and miscellaneous. We'll cross that bridge. One thing I know is that it took us about a year and a half to go from Halloween Horror Nights 9 to Halloween Horror Nights 10.
There was a reason, but...
There was a reason. There definitely was a reason. Now, we don't plan, just transparency, we don't plan to do 11 before Horror Nights.
Yeah.
Just because it's going to be busy, and then we'll do a little break after Horror Nights. So maybe in the new year, we'll promise to kind of continue this history, because I know we love talking about it and learning things, because Liz never knew you could ride Earthquake before a maze. So
see, even I learn.
And I know you guys like hearing about it, and I know you like us when we break down the maze on like different rooms. I know people do like that and ask for it, so it will be coming. Yeah,
let's commit to at least doing 2 next year.
Yeah, that's a step up, right?
Yeah,
2 next year. If we do 2 before the 6th of July next year, I'll be happy. So
all right, let's commit to that. Yeah. We're gonna do it.
Yeah. But that is it. That's all we got for Halloween Horror Nights 10. So I appreciate you hanging in with us for the history series. Promise we'll be back. Liz, I've got to pick on you, I'm afraid.
Of course.
But where can people find us?
They can find us at RIP Tour Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, on Ash's Instagram. I'm just going to call it that for now. Absolutely. Yeah. On YouTube. So thank you for everyone who watched this on YouTube. We have a Discord and we are trying to be more active on it. It is a work in progress, but come hang out with us. And we have, of course, Spreadshirt. So we're working on possibly a new design for this year. And as always, we say, once the event comes around, make sure to chat with us in the fog, because we would love to meet you guys and talk history with you in person.
Yes. Very well done, Liz. Very well done. But that's it. We're going to have episodes coming up. We're actually going live. I don't know when this episode is going out, but we are going live on the 10th of July, which is Thursday. So if you do listen to this prior, come and join us at 8 p.m. on YouTube. We'll post about it again before we go live. But with nothing else to add, we appreciate you listening as always. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the fog. Bye.
Bye.